Hey guys, I'm Emily, and today we're going to talk a little bit about mental health and mental illness. So, we all know what it's like to feel mentally drained and mentally exhausted, and we all know what it's like to have better days mentally, especially with school and the ups and downs of, classes and that stress. I'm also joined by my little brother Robert. Robert, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, my name is Robert. I'm 16 and I'm a sophomore at Central Valley High School.
Yeah, so we're just going to talk a little bit about some of the stereotypes and stigmas that surround mental health and mental illness. So, according to the National Institute of Mental Health, 1 in 5 adults lives with a mental illness, which is quite a lot of people. So, I believe that as a society, we need to normalize and destigmatize the conversations around mental health and mental illness in order to promote healthy and open mindsets towards supporting ourselves and one another. So, why does mental health have such a taboo around it? I think the first taboo we really see around mental illness and mental health is the outright refusal to talk about it. And by doing this, sometimes we cause people to think that they're broken, or maybe they're imagining the entire problem. Yanis Tesfaye and her colleagues did a psychological study, and they came up with the idea that myths and beliefs about mental health and illnesses are everywhere and in every community, and these influence people's attitudes. So this is really important to address because everyone should be learning to understand themselves and others mentally and throw out the ideas of stereotypes and stigmatisms that we often see reproduced in the media. Again, everyone is affected by mental health because that has to do with our mental state every single day, and a lot of people in this world are affected by mental illness. So how do we start normalizing conversations around mental health and mental illness? The first thing that a lot of research shows is to start encouraging others to check up on their friends and family. Make sure that it's known that it's okay to not be okay, it's okay to seek help, and it's okay to just have bad days in general. So Robert, how was your day today?
It was alright.
It's good. How were your classes this morning?
I did not enjoy them.
Well, that's too bad.
Yeah.
My classes were pretty boring this morning too. I guess it's just Mondays, you know?
Yeah, I think so.
So what mental illness do you live with?
I have ADHD and I have struggled with depression.
Okay, and how long have you lived with ADHD?
I've had ADHD since I was really little, but I only got diagnosed about 4 years ago.
So do you take medication for your ADHD?
I do, yeah.
And does it help?
It makes a difference.
That's good. Do you see a psychologist or a psychiatrist?
I used to, but I need new ones.
Yeah. Did you find that it helps when you're able to see them and talk with them?
Yeah, it meant that I can get new dosages for meds, and then I can, just sort of vent about this and that, find solutions to some of my problems. I really recommend it. Anyone, whether you have a mental illness or not, go for the sake of your mental health.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point to make. Having that conversation, whether it's with a psychologist or, with your best friend, I think is really important because it kind of starts to create this idea of openness and acceptance in talking about mental health and mental illness. So a fairly well-known psychologist who kind of started this online presence and the hashtag called Same Here, Eric Cussin, he says, why is it more important, instead of supporting one another in our common struggles, to project this public image of the white picket fence to our friends, neighbors, and on social media? And I think what Cussin is saying here is that we kind of have this idea that we're supposed to be okay at all times, and it's not normal to go through low times, and I think we need to start shifting that mindset within our society. So if we start talking about mental health and we start normalizing these conversations, society will hopefully start to become a place where mental health improves and people aren't afraid to speak about their worries and their struggles. Also, I think it's really important that people's basic understanding of mental health improves and we start to push that education, which will contribute to the cycle of bettering society as a whole. If we don't normalize conversation around mental health and mental illness, people will continue to think it's taboo and they'll likely suffer in terms of their own mental health. So Robert, what's something that you would like to see more often within conversations surrounding mental illness and mental health?
I'd like to see more willingness to have those conversations. I want to see people understand that, they don't have to be their friends' therapists. They just need to be there to listen to their friends and their families. I also want people to understand that not all mental illness looks the same. For example, there are people on the autism spectrum that are perfectly functioning members of society, and then there are others that can do almost nothing on their own. So I'd like people to not immediately cast their pity on every person as soon as they find out, oh, that person has a mental illness. Some of them don't want your pity. I don't want your pity for me. I'm making it through, and many people are.
Yeah, I totally agree with you, and I think that's a really great segue into my last point. So, psychologist Patrick Corrigan and his colleagues did a study, and they came up with the idea that pity from the public can really reproduce negative effects, because when we try to elicit sympathy, there's kind of this over-reliance that we create on the dramatization of what people with mental illnesses can and cannot do, and what they should look like. And going off what Robert kind of just said, mental illness tends to be very spectral, and there's different severities to every different type of mental illness, and there's different degrees and different types, so that's really important for us to realize, I think. So overall, the importance of normalizing these conversations about mental health and mental illness I think are rooted in a level of respect and a level of sympathy that I think we should all carry for not only ourselves, but also everyone around us. So thank you, Robert, for joining me tonight. I had a lot of fun making this, and I really appreciate you being willing to talk to me about your perspective and your story.
Yeah, I had a good time. Thanks.
So on a closing note, I really want to encourage all of you to be kind to yourselves, take care of yourselves, make sure you're thinking about your mental health and taking breaks, especially in these last couple weeks of the semester, and make sure you're checking on your friends and family. Thanks for listening, guys. Bye!